On that fateful Halloween night, my friends and I, lured by the thrill of adventure, found ourselves drawn to the carnival on the outskirts of town. It was no ordinary carnival. It was a sinister spectacle, with its faded lights and creepy music that seemed to seep into our bones. My 4 friends and I entered the carnival grounds, our laughter masking the unease in our hearts. The air was thick with the scent of cotton candy and popcorn, but beneath the sugary aroma, there was a lingering sense of dread. As we approached the haunted house, its facade loomed ominously, beckoning us to enter. The moment we crossed the threshold, the atmosphere changed. The once lively carnival sounds faded into a distant murmur, and an eerie silence enveloped us. The interior was a maze of dark corridors and hidden chambers. We moved forward, our phone lights casting feeble beams that barely pierced the darkness. Doors slammed shut behind us, and the flickering lights above us cast haunting shadows on the walls. We tried to reassure one another, but unease settled into our bones like an unwelcome guest. In the dim light, we stumbled upon a room adorned with faded carnival posters, their colors muted with age. The walls seemed to pulsate with an otherworldly energy, and a chill ran down my spine. Suddenly, the room came alive with the sound of distant laughter and the faint melody of a carnival tune. The walls trembled, and the floor beneath us seemed to sway. We exchanged nervous glances, our fear mirrored in each other's eyes. The room transformed before our eyes, taking on a sinister carnival vibe. Clowns, their faces twisted into grotesque smiles, danced across the walls, their laughter echoing through the chamber. The air grew heavy with the scent of old leather. I felt a cold breath on the back of my neck, and I turned, expecting to see one of my friends. Instead, I was met with empty darkness. Panic gripped us as the room distorted and contorted, its walls closing in around us. The laughter grew louder, more maniacal, filling the air with a cacophony of madness. We ran, our footsteps echoing through the twisted corridors, but no matter how fast we moved, the haunted house seemed to stretch infinitely, trapping us within its malevolent grip. In our desperate attempts to escape, we found ourselves in a hall of mirrors, where distorted reflections leered back at us. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized the mirrors were not reflecting our own images. They showed us as twisted, contorted versions of ourselves, our faces warped into terrifying masks. The laughter grew deafening, drowning out our cries for help. Shadows danced around us, and unseen hands clawed at our faces, leaving scratches and bruises in their wake. I screamed, but my voice was lost amidst the supernatural chaos. In a final, desperate attempt to escape, I burst through a door, only to find myself back in the carnival grounds. The haunted house loomed behind me. I was broken, my spirit shattered by the horrors I had witnessed, but somehow I had found the will to run. I was the only one who managed to escape the clutches of the haunted carnival. The night had taken a heavy toll on all of us, but I was the lone survivor, my mind scarred. As I stumbled out of the carnival grounds, my clothes torn and my body bruised, I thought I was finally safe. But safety was an illusion. The police launched a thorough investigation, searching for any trace of the haunted house that had swallowed us whole. However, to everyone's bewilderment, no one could confirm the existence of such an attraction at the carnival grounds. The police questioned carnival workers, attendees, and nearby residents, but their effort yielded no results. It was as if the haunted house had never existed, as if my horrifying experience was nothing more than a figment of my imagination. The town became even more convinced that I was fabricating the entire story to escape blame for my friend's disappearance. Despite my insistence and the scratches and bruises on my body as evidence, there was no physical proof of the haunted house. The police closed the case due to lack of evidence, leaving me isolated in my anguish. The absence of any witnesses to corroborate my story deepened the suspicion against me. People whispered behind my back, casting accusing glances my way whenever I passed by. The carnival grounds stood empty and abandoned, a chilling reminder of the horrors I had faced, and yet there was no concrete proof to validate my terrifying ordeal. I continued to visit the deserted carnival grounds, hoping to find some evidence that could clear my name and prove the existence of the haunted house. But each time I ventured there, the site appeared more desolate, as if the carnival itself had vanished into thin air, leaving no trace of its sinister past. Haunted by the memories of that harrowing night, burdened by the town's suspicions and the guilt I felt for being the only one to survive, I retreated into the shadows, becoming a recluse in a world where I no longer belonged. My only companions were the ghosts of my lost friends, their laughter echoing through the corridors of my mind. The carnival, with its mysteries and horrors, became a distant nightmare, but the scars it left behind were permanent. I lived the rest of my days in solitude, a silent witness to the carnival's secrets, my story forever entwined with the darkness that had swallowed us whole. I don't really remember when the tradition started, but on each Halloween night, my friends and I dared each other to face our deepest fears, and this year, my challenge was to explore the old abandoned mansion on the outskirts of town. Brimming with false bravery, I ventured into the decaying, shadowy corridors of Hollow Manor. As I ventured deeper, the atmosphere grew colder, and an ominous whispering filled the air. I pressed on, my steps echoing through the empty halls. The fading moonlight barely illuminated the peeling wallpaper and broken furniture that adorned the mansion's rooms. In a forgotten study, I stumbled upon a dusty old diary. Its pages, filled with cryptic entries, told a tale of a tragic love story and a forbidden ritual gone awry. The ink seemed to shimmer, as if the words themselves were alive. The moment I closed the diary, a chilling breeze swept through the room, extinguishing my flashlight. I stood in pitch darkness, my heart pounding in my chest. Suddenly, a faint glow appeared in the corner, illuminating a spectral figure. A ghostly voice filled the room, echoing from the walls. "You've awakened us! Now you must pay the price." Terrified, I tried to flee, but an unseen force held me in place. The ghostly figure approached, its eyes glowing with an eerie light. It spoke of an ancient curse that bound the spirits to the mansion, and how my intrusion had given them a chance for revenge. I pleaded for my life, wildly making promises I knew I couldn't fulfill, but the spirits were unrelenting. They surrounded me, their wailing voices growing louder and more desperate. I felt a searing pain as icy fingers gripped my soul. In a final act of desperation, I clutched the dusty diary, my fingers trembling as I searched for a chant or recitation that might hold the power to banish the spirits haunting Hollow Manor. With nothing left to lose, I found an incantation, its words imbued with an ancient promise to quell the restless souls. Bracing myself, I screamed the words aloud, and the mansion quaked in response. The ghostly figures, once menacing, now wailed in agony, as if struck by an unseen force. The very walls of the mansion pulsed with energy, and in that moment, it felt like the curse that had gripped the place for centuries began to unravel. There was a blinding flash of light, and I found myself outside the mansion, gasping for breath. The night was still, and the mansion stood silent and foreboding, as if nothing had happened. I fled from that place, my mind haunted by the ghostly encounter. I realized that some mysteries should remain undisturbed, and that the boundary between the living and the dead should never be crossed. Every Halloween, our town hosted a grand masquerade ball at the historic mansion atop Widow's Hill. The invitation was exclusive, the event shrouded in mystery, and attending was considered a rite of passage. This year, I received an ornate envelope in the mail, its wax seal imprinted with an intricate mask. Curiosity overcame caution, and on that fateful night, I ventured to the mansion, my heart pounding with anticipation and unease. The mansion loomed in the moonlight, its ancient stones adorned with flickering lanterns, casting eerie shadows. As I entered, the air grew thick with an atmosphere of extravagance and secrecy. The ballroom was a dance of masks and silk, the guests adorned in elaborate costumes that hid their identities. It was intoxicating and unsettling, a blend of allure and apprehension. In the midst of the revelry, a stranger approached me. His mask, a grotesque mockery of a smiling jester, hid his face entirely. He led me to a secluded balcony overlooking the sea, where the sounds of the waves mingled with distant laughter. With a voice like silk, he spoke of an ancient ritual that took place during the masquerade, a ritual whispered only among the mansion's walls. He claimed it granted unimaginable power, but exacted a dreadful price. As the clock struck midnight, he revealed a silver dagger, its blade glinting malevolently in the moonlight. My heart raced as I realized the depth of the masquerade's secrets. I attempted to excuse myself, but he gripped my arm with surprising strength, his eyes ablaze with an unholy fervor. He spoke words in a language I couldn't comprehend, and the room seemed to darken around us. Suddenly, the candles flickered and died, plunging us into an abyssal blackness. I felt a cold hand on my shoulder, and a whisper slithered into my ear. The ritual begins. I tried to scream, but no sound escaped my lips. The room came alive with a cacophony of whispers and phantom footsteps. Shadows danced on the walls, their forms twisted and grotesque. I felt an invisible presence, sinister and hungry, encircling us like a predatory beast. The stranger chanted incantations, his voice rising in intensity. The very air seemed charged with an otherworldly energy, and I felt a force pulling at my soul. My vision blurred, and I saw apparitions of masked figures, their eyes empty voids, watching me with an eerie intensity. As the ritual reached its climax, the room quaked, and the mansion echoed with anguished cries. The masked guests writhed in agony, their disguises melding with their faces, becoming grotesque permanent fixtures. The jester's mask fused with his flesh, his eye sockets hollow voids. In the midst of the chaos, I broke free, stumbling backwards into the ballroom. The ritual came to a close, and the mansion seemed to exhale a sigh of relief. The lights flickered back to life, revealing the guests frozen in their horrifying masks, their expressions frozen in eternal torment. The stranger turned to me, his mask now a part of his skin, his eye sockets hollow and dark. "You've witnessed the unveiling of our true selves," he said, his voice echoing through the ballroom. "The ritual reveals the darkness within, bringing our deepest fears to life. Those who survive gain knowledge, but at the cost of their sanity." With those words, he vanished into the crowd of frozen guests, leaving me to grapple with the horrifying truth I had uncovered. The air grew thick with an ominous energy, and the atmosphere inside the mansion became suffocating. Suddenly, the guests around me started to twitch and convulse, their eyes rolling back, as if possessed by some unseen force. I fled the mansion, my mind ablaze with terror, my heart pounding in my chest. The masquerade had transformed into a nightmare of unparalleled horror, and the memory of that night tormented my every waking moment. I had unwittingly stumbled upon the dark secret of an ancient ritual, Power came at a price far more sinister than I could have ever imagined. The masks we wore to conceal our deepest fears had become our truest, most grotesque faces, and the sinister force that lurked beneath the surface was now unleashed, with no one to stop it. In our town, spooky ghost stories and urban legends were as common as the autumn wind. Little did I know that on one chilling Halloween night, I would find myself not just listening to these tales, but becoming an unwilling character in a terrifying story whispered in the shadows. Every Halloween, a trip to the corn maze bordering our town was a cherished tradition, but this year, an unsettling vibe gripped me the moment I stepped in. The darkness descended like a heavy shroud as I ventured into the expansive cornfield. With only my cell phone casting feeble glimmers, I treaded carefully amidst the towering corn stalks. The rustling leaves whispered enigmatic secrets, and the night hung heavy with an ominous tension, making every step a nerve-wracking journey into the unknown. The beam of my cell phone's light cut through the darkness, revealing endless rows of corn stalks that stretched out throughout the maze. Each step I took echoed in the silence, and every rustle of the leaves made my heart skip a beat. And then, a sudden, piercing scream shattered the stillness of the night, sending shivers down my spine. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. The air grew heavy with an unsettling energy, and I felt an invisible force closing in around me. I turned, shining my cell phone behind me, and I saw a ghastly figure emerging from the shadows. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and its mouth opened in a piercing scream. I tried to back away, but my feet felt rooted to the spot, as if the very ground held me captive. The scream echoed again, closer this time, its intensity vibrating in the air. I felt a cold breath on my neck, and a sense of overwhelming dread washed over me. The figure advanced, its movements disjointed and eerie. Finally able to move, I sprinted, my footsteps swallowed by the damp earth beneath me. The scream chased after me, its echoes intensifying, each reverberation sending a chill down my back. The once familiar cornfield now twisted and contorted, disorienting me at every turn as I frantically sought an escape from the haunting wail that seemed to echo from the very heart of the night. The scream surrounded me, enveloping me in its nightmarish wail. I covered my ears, trying to block out the sound, but it seeped into my very soul. Distorted faces flickering in the shadows, their expressions contorted in anguish and despair. With every ounce of strength, I pushed forward, my heart pounding in my chest. Just when I thought I couldn't bear it any longer, I burst out of the cornfield, gasping for air. The night air was crisp and cold, and the cornfield stood silent and ominous behind me. I stumbled back to town, my mind in turmoil, my body drenched in sweat. The legend of the scream in the cornfield was no longer just a story. It was a nightmare that had become all too real, a Halloween terror that would haunt my thoughts and dreams forever. We hope you enjoyed the hair-raising stories that unfolded in the shadows of Halloween night. If these tales of terror left you with a sense of intrigue, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more gripping narratives. Remember, the night is not always as it seems, and the supernatural may be lurking just around the corner. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the unknown.